And yes, of course, we're back. I nearly went over time again when I started talking about potential and youngsters, but we're back. You're listening to IBGR.network, of course, and it's great to have you here. I love to be with you here on my Power Hour, and IBGR is our call sign as a radio station. But of course, I said it already, we are so much more than a radio station. We are a network of global entrepreneurs supporting and guiding and helping you in collaborative partnerships so you can become more successful, so you don't have to go through all the struggles on your own. You have a platform of real people here talking about real things in real time. And you can ask us questions, you can work with us, you can put the questions in Facebook if you're on Facebook Live, you can put the questions on the website, you can connect with each and every one of us around the world. There's more than 40 hosts. All our details are on the Facebook page, they are in the app, so you can find us anywhere where we can do our best to help, guide, and support you in your challenges, maybe your hour of need even, but to ensure that you have a much better chance of becoming successful as an entrepreneur or becoming even more successful. And I'm your host, Jan Roberts. I'm the Inspirational Entrepreneur, and this is episode number 12 already. And there is one more to go next week, but episode number 12 of season 4. And we're talking about lifting the lid on your potential, how you can blow the lid of your business potential as an entrepreneur. We're in the people lane. This is Thursday, people lane. It's people day. It's people day every day, but today it's the people day in the IBGR network. And you can find all you need in the IBGR.network on our social media channels. You can also download my show notes and everybody else's show notes, which are put on religiously every week and every day by Donna and any other staff she might have, but I think she's so busy with all this herself. But they are put on there for you to download. You can also download, of course, there is whole e-books on there with sections of all these show notes that have been put together, again, by the amazing people in the back room. Donna and Bill have organized all this, so you can download these show notes from whole seasons about whole subjects. And go through them, and then when you find something, you can also go back to the episodes as podcasts and listen into them, so it makes it more manageable for you to listen to anything particularly. And all these podcasts are in 15-minute sections, so even this hour is cut in 4 15-minute sections. So if there's one section that really talks into you, go and listen to it. Go and download it. It's all available on the IBGR.network. Now, let me ask you a question. What is your why? Your passion, your purpose, even your destiny as an entrepreneur. See, it is so much easier to lift the lid when you discover all of this. Because if you haven't really figured that out yet, you're at a stage that you're struggling even more with some of the basics. But when you've come across the basics and or you really want to delve into it more, because when you're passionate about what you do, I've already talked into that just because you're passionate is not necessarily ensures that you can make a living out of it. Some of it might just be a hobby. If you're passionate about golf and you know better than your handicap is still about a 24 or something like that, yes, play golf, but don't go into it as a business. You know what I'm saying. So use it as a hobby, but if you're passionate and you want to make a living out of it, there is so many things that you need to do, but it helps if you're passionate because you don't need an alarm clock to get out of bed. And then, of course, is what are your strengths? When you get to know about your strengths, you can extend them, because it's not just resting on your laurels and I know these are my strengths and they're beautiful and wonderful. Of course they are, but you also need to understand that you need to extend those, get out of that strength comfort zone and extend them even further, stretch those strengths, because that's good. And also you might need to work on areas of improvement. I don't say weaknesses, because it's not a weakness. It's only a weakness if you want to see it like that. It's a negative connotation, but if you say areas of improvement, is that not much more wonderful? And initially you might feel, because you need to be everything to everybody at all times, you might need to work on those areas a little bit more and some of them might be sales, some of them might just be finances, some of them might be other areas that you might need to work on that you are not strong in, until you can hire somebody to take over those areas. And there is some areas that you need to become stronger at purely because maybe your people skills are not as good. But if you start to become an entrepreneur, like maybe when you were working for a boss, you didn't need your people skills. You were sitting in a cubicle or you're doing certain things, and you were fine with that. But now you need to deal more with people, so you need to increase those skills, those areas of you that need increasing. But you need to know those things first. Get to know yourself. And also, another question is, what is holding you back? What is really holding you back? Why are you not the person you want to be? Why are you not the entrepreneur you ought to be? And you might be developing a bit. There was somebody who said quite a while ago, it says, I'm not where I ought to be. I'm not where I want to be. But I certainly am not where I used to be. Now that's progress. But how much progress are you making? And are you satisfied with the progress you're making? Or is there something holding you back? To lift the lid on your potential, do you have that all-important personal development plan? Now, that's very, very important. That's very important for everybody. I will talk a little bit more into that in the last session as well. But you need to start thinking about it. What does my personal development look like? What does it actually mean to me to have a personal development plan? Now, before I go any further, I want to talk a little bit about another story, which is a little bit different, but this is a story of another two brothers, Wilbur and Orville. Now, you might have heard of them already, but they were working on a concept in their bike shed, and despite lots of opposition and ridicule, even their own father, who was a bishop, did not believe they could or should proceed with their ridiculous dream. But the Wright brothers made history in 1903 at Kitty Hawk with their first ever powered flight, which I think, if I'm right, it lasted 12 seconds and they went like 120 yards. That is not the important part, but it was their first powered flight. Just 2 years later, they had built their first fully practical plane. Now that came from setbacks, ridicule, all that kind of stuff. But they had that vision, they had that passion, they had something inside them that says, no, we need to. I mean, their father, the bishop, said if God wanted you to fly, he would have given you wings, that kind of stuff. And they said, no, there is something here. And they looked at birds and all that kind of stuff. Whatever their ideas were, they've got a phenomenal biography about it. But how easy would it have been for them to give up just to go back to work, to forget about their vision of flight? Simple. How easy would that have been? Would anybody have blamed them because of, I mean, of course they went through failures and all that kind of stuff. And the thing was, that particular lid was blown off by them and their vision, and they believed that it was possible. See, they worked with possibility and opportunity and a vision that they wanted to achieve. And nothing was going to stop them. Yes, some setbacks, of course, but nothing really stopped them, and that's why they succeeded, and that's why today we can fly. I'm not saying it's the only reason, because it certainly wasn't easy, but they saw it as a possibility, as an opportunity, as a way to do something, and how they have impacted life as we know it 118 years later. I mean, how important was that? Now, the fascinating thing when you really look into that, there were others who attempted flight before that. There was even 50 years before that. It had been discussed and tried out, and they used gliders and things like that of some sorts. But there was also an Englishman some years beforehand who was highly and heavily funded, unlike the Wright brothers, had attempted this, and he failed twice. He took off, the press was there, on a ramp on the river. I can't remember the Englishman's name just now, but he took off and the plane just crashed. Well, he didn't take off really. It went honk. You know, when you see these programs where people do all kinds of things, these fun things, and they try all kind of ways to go the furthest over the water, and some of them just go like, well, his plane went like that. And the second time, I believe he nearly died when he landed upside down in the water. He never tried again. See, his vision, with all the funding they had, his vision was squashed. He felt there was no possibility anymore. It was never going to succeed. But also partly because of the ridicule he got in the press, the ridicule other people gave him. Yet the Wright brothers had similar things happening. They carried on regardless. And again, as the rest, they said, it's history. But persistence is so important when your dreams, when you have a vision, when you want to become that successful entrepreneur. So important that if you go to Think and Grow Rich, an amazing book, which I've studied a few times and I still study again, there is a whole chapter on there about persistence. You need to persist. No, I will until. Success is going from failure to failure until you succeed. That's when success happens, and then you appreciate your success because of everything that did happen. How many people inherit money and they lose it all? So there is all these kind of things going on, and I need to keep an eye on my time, but I know I've got another minute or so. But history is full of people who did achieve great things, but for everyone who did, there are literally thousands who did not. There are many reasons for that, but one of them is definitely the lid those people firmly placed on their own heads, their own dreams, and their own possibilities and potential. Don't let that happen to you. And there's things that you can do, which I'll talk into the next session, but don't let that happen to you. How will you ever succeed as an entrepreneur if you do not search and research any possibilities within your field of expertise, your field of passion, your field of dreams? How will you succeed if you are constantly living in fear, living with other people's opinions, living with your limitations? Now we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back on radio very soon. Don't go away when we'll talk in some of the areas that you can work on to lift the lid on your potential.